Hello, Darlene Jenkins with Just BTC here, and joining you just for a few minutes today to share with you a few thoughts that I have around the idea of risk, and specifically the myth of risk. Now, wait a minute, don't touch that dial, just give me a minute to explain, because I'm sure you're probably thinking what I was thinking the first time that I heard this too, that that's ridiculous, or this doesn't apply to me, I'm not gonna waste my time, right? But let me ask you this. What would you be doing today or implementing in your business today if there was no risk involved in it? Did anything pop into your mind? And did the thought of impossibility just sweep it away? You see, the myth of risk may be the thing that is stopping you or holding you back from getting the results that you want, and you don't even know it. We all have decisions to make every day, all day long, right? And we have choices in that to make. And with choices comes responsibility. And with the responsibilities, we know that there's the consequences of, should we say, riskability. And here's the thing, the choices that we make, if you think about it, they're the result of a decision-making process. And at some point, for most of us, that decision-making process, well, somehow it stops being a point where we make the best decision that we can out of the options that we understand are available to us. And it becomes a point where we decide whether or not we're going to take the risk, right? There's a point that we kind of stop looking at the best options and we start to evaluate whether or not we're going to take the risk. And I know we've got other people to think about, but it's a reality. We stop when we look at the risk. Well, let me say this. Something that I've learned is that earlier in that process that we decide that we're going to call this decision-making process taking risks, right then, really, the less successful that we're going to be. And why is that? Because there's something about the word risk. There's just something about it that's programmed into our minds that means danger, avoid at all costs, run, hide, right? But the word itself also scares people. And it somehow stirs up all kinds of caution, uncertainty, impossibility, and limitations. We all can remember being told things like, be careful, you don't want to get hurt, you don't want to fail, better safe than sorry. And we've all been programmed to avoid risk and really to retreat. And those words, taking a risk, they automatically scare people. And it's true that we naturally and instinctively, we want to step backward into safety. And that just might be how some of your people are thinking, or at times ourselves. But Abraham Maslow, he said, in any given moment, we actually have two choices. We can step forward in growth, or we can step backward into safety. And it's so easy to want to step backwards. But you see, one thing that I believe about risk is that it's just a perception. It is just edited reality. It is not a reality. So what is risk? Well, Webster's dictionary defines risk that it's the exposure to the chance of injury or loss. Well, nobody wants that, right? The chance of injury or loss. But it goes on to say that it's a hazard or a dangerous chance. Now, just to be clear, we're not talking about life and death risk-taking activities, like wrestling alligators, cliff diving, riding a motorbike 160 kilometers an hour and saying, look, Mom, no hands. Now, not that kind of risk-taking behavior. And really, those are likely and could end up being single events. And well, the risk of physical injury and the loss of life really is a reality. And that is what I would call a risk. But I'm trying to uncover the myth we have around risk based on the perceptions that we have. And I'm talking about risk-taking or behavior as it relates to moving forward and making decisions towards growth in our business, personally, to explore options really to get the results that we're looking for, that we really want. I think it was Joseph Campbell who wrote in his book, The Hero's Journey. He says, the cave that you enter The cave that you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek. See, my goal is to look at the perception of risk that stands at the entrance of those possibilities. And possibly the belief we have around risk may actually be holding us back. There is a likelihood that what we believe about risk is maybe misappropriated in our situations. Just remember back when, and think about when you wanted to learn to ride a bike. There was no such thing as risk, at least not until somebody told you there was a risk, based on people that we love and know cared about us, and would say, careful, you don't want to get hurt, you don't want to go too fast, you might fall and break your leg, or maybe you saw someone get hurt and you were told to be careful because you saw what happened to that guy. The idea of better safe than sorry, right? Now, somehow in that, uncertainty, lack of ability, doubt, and fear enters, and we understand that to be risk. But because we know that we want to learn to ride this bike, we give it a go. I mean, what's the risk in trying? It's something you really want, right? So you try, you fail, you fall, you get scraped, you get up, you figure it out, and you learn to ride your bike. You get to go places faster, easier, it's more convenient, and you just think into all the possibilities that you can do on your bike. Or you play it safe, better safe than sorry, right? And you don't get on the bike, you don't fall, you don't get scraped, and you never end up learning to ride a bike. And so where's the chance of loss in doing nothing and playing it safe? Think of the risk in that. Huge loss. You do nothing and nothing changes, right? Nothing gained. So what if there really is no such thing as risk, but only growth? And what if those feelings of risk, they served you as a yield sign to stop and pay attention and to evaluate your thinking, to what you're believing in that moment that may be actually an illusion or a perception, instead of using those feelings of risk as a stop sign to be avoided at all cost. What I've experienced is that the very real hallucination around risk-taking that most of us operate from is that there's a lack of resources within ourselves or within our grasp. That's when we all of a sudden chalk it up as a risk. It has to do with our perception, has to do with our belief, and has to do with a lack of resources. But the truth is, and in fact, it's impossible for us to perceive something as a risk until and unless we see ourselves without the resources necessary to accomplish what we have in mind to do. So think about what would change if you started to change your perception about risk. For example, what if we started seeing from, instead of looking at it from not losing what we have to going after what we want, or from stepping back into safety to stepping forward into growth? What if our perception changed from playing not to lose to playing to win? So in closing, I just want to ask you, when was the last time that you sat down and evaluated your thought process around the topic of risk-taking and really challenged some of your thinking around it? Like where, when, why, and how a generalized concept or thought became so widely accepted as just a process in your thinking that now goes unchecked or unchallenged, and it limits you from making decisions and moving forward. Really, do the beliefs that you have about risk, do they serve you now at this time in the situation that you face to help you make decisions and move forward? Well, that's the whole point of this lesson, is how do you take a challenge or a problem and turn it upside down on its head and start using it to move forward? How do you shift your awareness from risk taking or risk thinking to possibility thinking? See, people who embrace possibility thinking are capable of accomplishing tasks that seem impossible because they believe in solutions. In fact, possibility thinking increases your possibilities. So I hope this has brought some encouragement to your day, some thoughts for you to think into. And now I'm sure that there's some of you that want to go deeper into this topic, especially into the possibility side of things. So I invite you to join us tonight at 6:30 p.m. where we have time to really take an hour and just dig into this. So I encourage you to Zoom with us tonight at 6:30. If you want to just click on or send me an email, I look forward to seeing you, and have a great day.